Food as medicine, ferments, microbiome, probiotics, prebiotics, all terms we throw around regularly when it comes to our health. But why are we completely ignoring our biggest organ, our skin? The skincare and cosmetics industry is a 200 billion, that's a B, industry and growing fast with often great margins. Most of it is filled with barely legal chemicals, but there's a fast growing natural and even regenerative beauty space. And we talk to one of its leaders. We cover everything: ferments, probiotics, prebiotics, the skincare microbiome, how they started, why they are fully vertically integrated, why they specifically grow plants for their active ingredients, aka nutrient density, why processing fast, often less than 2 hours after harvest, is so crucial. Otherwise, these ingredients aren't alive anymore, and thus they don't work anymore. Sounds familiar with food? There are so many overlaps and so many similarities with the food space, except that the skincare space is full of really well-built brands with great margins. So we have some work to do. And for regen farmers, growing something for the skincare industry could be very interesting. Many plants which thrive almost naturally in the harsh and hard Mediterranean climate, rosemary, lavender, olives, are fundamental ingredients for this sector. Yes, this conversation involves frequencies, thinking about playing music to plants and asking permission before removing leaves, all to achieve the highest possible quality and effectiveness. We spend a lot of time unpacking the almost superpowers of the queen of healthy plants, Aloe Vera. This is the Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food podcast, where we learn more on how to put money to work to regenerate soil, people, local communities, and ecosystems, while making an appropriate and fair return. Welcome to another special episode. I say that way too many times lately, but this one is really true. We are in a beautiful space, surrounded by things that come from the land, but are not necessarily to put in your mouth. Some of them you maybe could, but Pierluigi is going to correct me if we do that. But it's a space we don't cover very often. It's what you put on your skin, which is the biggest organ we have. And we're going to definitely talk about how toxic many of the things we put on our skin are, and what the opportunity is to detoxify that or to regenerate. And so we're going to talk about cosmetics, and we're going to talk about skincare with a company that's based in Salento, in Puglia, which has been hosting us here for the mornings. I'm very much looking forward to unpack that with Pierluigi. Welcome, and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here today, and hello everyone.
And to start with, a personal question we always like to ask. You're born into a skincare family, let's say, but it doesn't mean you end up there by nature. And there are many people that run away as far away as possible from what their parents are doing. And that we see very often in the farming context as well. People are like, absolutely not. I'm going to go and become an artist. I'm going to go and become an architect. I'm going to go as far away as possible. In this case, you went and you came back 6-7 years ago now. So what led you to spending most of your waking hours thinking and acting and working around the fascinating world, but also the relatively not small world, but very dedicated world of skincare? Like, what brought you back, I think, is it? What brought you away to study and to work elsewhere? I think everybody understands. What brought you back to Salento?
Thank God the second example, it's actually my case. Our story as a company begin from a very strong passion for nature and a very particular attraction for all the most extraordinary properties of natural elements for people, well-being and beauty. And from that, the dream of developing natural and organic solution to improve people's quality of life. And I would say that's the reason why I came back, fully aligned with this vision, this mission, which actually motivates me to wake up every single day. The company, it's N&B Natural is better. It's our family business. We are focused on R&D of natural and organic skincare, body care, hair care products. And the special trait is that of personalizing them for companies all over the world in private label. I say we are the tailors of the cosmetic field. But the most important point is that of having decided, having established a direct supply chain locally at kilometer zero from plant to beauty. So that's very uncommon in our field. We follow directly every single step of the supply chain, from organic and regenerative farming to extraction of the active principle, research and development, innovation, quality control. and then production of natural and organic products. And this has led to the development of our local business model, which today allows us to guarantee the highest quality of the product, the highest sustainability, and maybe most importantly, a great local impact, which it's fully integrated in our mission as a company. As you were saying, we are in Salento. Many people may not know this special land. It's really a beautiful place. It's an enchanted land where people and nature meet. We have uncontaminated nature within the two seas, in the Mediterranean, tradition, history. And why I say so? It is fundamental to understand that the fact that we were born here, so this place, this territory, Salento, Apulia, actually fueled our passion at the time of start and fuel it every single day. The reason why we decided to integrate agriculture in our business model is because we are born here and not in places where maybe even agriculture is difficult within a big cities within a big city for instance. And the second is the fact that we are very convinced that nature gives everything we need, not only as food but also as skincare. And that's why today we manage a natural paradise of 20 hectares where we follow since over 25 years organic and regenerative practices. And we cultivate all the most important Mediterranean plants. So starting from the officinal plants, lavender, rosemary, sage, mint, myrtle, going to olive trees, vineyard, the wheat, lemon, orange, prickly pear, fig, pomegranate, and then finally aloe vera, which we will see in a minute. From these, we use cold, ancient method, but from an innovative point of view, in our lab to extract the active principle. So we are talking about products of the herb that are usually used for food purposes, but that becomes very strong, potent active ingredients for the skin.
And just for people to understand or to grasp, like almost quantity versus like you're looking for active ingredients.
Yeah.
You are, and that makes cosmetics and skincare so interesting. You're measuring quality.
Absolutely.
You're really looking for the most active rosemary, let's say, and the most active aloe vera, because you need so little of it, but you need quite a bit of that as well. So how does that, like, in terms of, let's take rosemary. I think most people can imagine a rosemary plant. Like when you say we extract, how does that work? And how much rosemary do you need for whatever drip or drop, etc. you end up using?
That's an interesting question. I would say it's not about looking for the most active rosemary, but it's about enabling a production, a transformation process, which keeps that incredible properties of the rosemary and
alive, basically.
How we did this? So we recovered ancient methods of extraction, which were proper of the monks, and brought back to life. So this means that we even wait, this is called maceration, for example. This means that we even wait 8 to 10 weeks in order to get the active ingredient, but this can be sold in a jewelry. What I mean, it is so pure and powerful that you need to use even a little drop for it in order to have even a great beneficial effect on the skin. And this is also combined with the production process. So it's not only ends with the extraction process.
Of the pure ingredients.
So
No,
if
because
you go,
we're looking behind you,
yeah.
there's a wall of different brands, and we're not going to mention them, but you're the white label producer for many, the tailor, as you say. But then, of course, you have a drop that is lavender, and then how do you turn it into a cream or into something? And that's what you do. It's not just a drop and selling it to someone else that ends using the drop and...
Exactly. Actually, the innovation does not end in the extraction process, because we developed a production method that even produces a face cream or a face serum using low temperature, 25 to 35 degrees. And
Again,
this is the real game changer.
Again, to keep the active
To keep
ingredient alive.
100%, exactly. So to keep 100% of the miraculous properties of rosemary, of lavender, of aloe vera inside the finished product. So most of the time we read the INCI list, the ingredient list, and we see this and that, but we don't know if those elements are still alive inside the finished product. And that's why the entire process is proprietary. So we actually invented a way to produce in this way. And this is making the difference, because when the product gets in the skin, it's an explosion of beauty and well-being. This makes the difference at the end.
And so it's the processing, and I think many people, you're going to do it probably after this or during this, like looking on the ingredient list of skincare and cosmetics, there are many names and there's usually quite long lists.
Yeah.
But you're making a point there of how do you know if the ingredients, even if it was there to begin with, is it still alive? And is it still going to do anything on your skin? Or is it basically a nice moisturizer and that's pretty much it? And there's a process there. Was that the beginning of the company as well with your parents? Like what was the trigger there from, or was it a shock of what was and is still in most other skincare, what we put on our skin can be quite toxic? What was the trigger for your parents to start? Was it the superpower of the ingredient, the rosemary or the aloe vera? Was it, oh, we can transform this differently? I was in a monastery and I found this procedure. What was the...
It was innate. So it was an innate passion from my father. When he was very young, he was run away at 14 years old, going to talk to the old people to better understand how to make this kind of, let's say, natural medicine in order to solve daily problems. In fact, the company did not start with skincare, but started with daily products that solved all those little troubles in terms of well-being. This can be rheumatic pain, legs troubles. By using natural elements, of course, we need to stay into the cosmetic field, but there is so much that a cosmetic product can do in order to solve a little trouble in a natural way. So, say, starting from natural healthcare. And this, you need to understand that it's been a long process. So, the company was born 36 years ago, and it took a lot of energy and passion and step by step to arrive where we are today. We are today in an amazing laboratory, super sustainable, super innovative. But if we look back, there has been so many sacrifices and so many times we broke our head on the wall in order to find the right way to open the doors, the right way to innovate within that concept, within that specific field. And another interesting realization is that very often we take care of what we buy in the supermarket. So we will never buy something expired to make a cake. And we take a lot of care about the air we breathe. We want to breathe air which is not polluted. But then we go and we buy products which contains only chemicals and that do not do any good on our skin.
I'm laughing because a friend of the show, we just had him, Martin Reiter. I don't know if he said it on the podcast, but for sure I've seen him saying on pages, like, why do we put so many chemicals on our skin? Nobody wants to grow man boobs, which is a joke in a sense, but like the chemicals we put and the hormones we put, sort of unknowingly, you're right, we pay way more attention, or we should, but it's also interesting to see the natural skincare explosion over the last years, which I've not been following so closely, but there's almost a bit of a paradox there. There's a group of people that pay a lot of attention and money and margins to what they put on their skin, and then maybe not pay so much attention on what they put in their mouth. And there's a group of people that does.
For sure, it's not a concept of safety. So let me say, it's not a concept of safety for product which is grown with conventional farming. There is no cosmetic that are not safe. Although there is some cosmetic which contains many chemicals that for sure do not do the same effect as natural elements can do. So that's what we're talking about. And that's why we talk about pure food for your skin. So the entire concept is understanding that we have a fantastic opportunity to deliver to the body all those most important elements coming from nature through the skin. So in a very unconventional way. And this is the entire concept. Skin, I say, is often neglected, but it has the same importance. We do this example. If you put a drop of venom on the skin, or you drink, or you breathe, the result is always the same. So these make us understand that skin has exact the same importance as ingestion and as the air we breathe.
But it's a very different sector. I think with different margins, we'll get to that also what it means for farmers. We see some of the leading regenerative ones, I think La Junquera and others, and also Amadeco, starting to look, okay, what can we do with essential oils? What can we do with these? Apart from the fact that those plants grow easier in Mediterranean climates and they don't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
And maybe because they suffer, quote unquote, the active ingredients are stronger in that sense, but also because once done well, and it's not easy at all, there's interesting margins in skincare compared to an interesting brands. Like you see behind you, there's 50 different brands that all build an interesting brand around.
There is also an increased demand for this. So the market is requesting
compared to food, where still it's, I don't know if we can mention 50 brands that are on clean label, organic, to a certain scale and a certain margin. So there's a whole different parallel universe that we often don't talk about in Regen that is ready
She's
to
connected
absorb.
with, very often we talk about food, but also the cosmetic, which is actually very interesting as even an opportunity for those food-based products, because the inside-out treatment is the winning element, because you are treating yourself by inside with food you eat, but you're treating yourself also from the outside. So it is reinforcing the strength of that treatment.
Have you seen brands making that? You have a few things that you can drink, etc.
We have various customers, not in terms of food, like raw material food. What I mean is not with apple, but with apple juice, or with some transformed food supplements, which still relates to food, with cosmetics. So there is many different examples of companies that treat beauty and well-being with food supplement and at the same time with skincare or body care products.
Which is, of course, once you have an aware consumer customer for skincare, why not also?
Absolutely.
There's such
even customers demands for it. So if you don't give it to them, they go to buy to another, and this can be also demonstrated by the number of people that go to the doctor to ask for food supplement. Yeah. This is a growing element. Again, we need to look at how those food supplements are made, and the same process, the same philosophy applies. But for sure, it's a great opportunity.
And coming back to the farming piece, you do a lot of aloe vera, a lot of other ingredients. Yes. How difficult or how important the extraction, the cold extraction that you mentioned, to keep it alive or to keep it active in the most purest form? Doesn't mean you have to harvest at a very specific moment. How do you? So there's a different attention, I think, to growing tomatoes.
That's actually a great question.
We brought. We have to dance around.
We're not getting there yet, but for sure there is an influence.
Quantum agriculture people listen to the vibrations. Yeah.
Yes, we believe about vibrations, but I will tell you this later. We brought aloe vera in Salento 25 years ago.
Because it's not a native.
It's not a native plant, but it has been used basically in every single house. There is an aloe vera, but people know the magic properties of this plant, but not as a cultivation. And the reason why we brought is because we were faced with the very big troubles of the global supply chain of aloe vera, where somehow very low social and environmental sustainability, poor quality of the raw material, questionable labor condition because it's often grown in countries where there is not the same level of attention. And again, from an agricultural point of view, water pollution and carbon emission, soil erosion. We said at the time, as a company, we are also certified because so our philosophy is clear. We cannot somehow invest or support this cycle of negative impact. We decided to solve this problem. We said, okay, we lived in a wonderful territory. Agriculture is already a huge thing. People are very connected with the land. Also because this has been the main source of income for generations. So we said, okay, why not? We bought the first 1,000 plants from Canary Islands, where aloe vera grows naturally. And the first year, all plants were dead because we had no knowledge of how to do it. Then we understood that the greenhouse was needed somehow to protect the plant, especially for winter months. But we had very clear guiding principles. Our vision, people and planet first, total quality with no compromise, happiness of the people involved, and care for Mother Nature. And that's where the story of aloe vera from Salento, because now today we talk about aloe vera from Salento, is a native plant, because we are talking about the sisters of those mother's plants we initially bought. Today we manage over 10,000 plants, producing over 200,000 kilos of raw material. And I would say the extraction process is fundamental. In this regard, the short production cycle, where we go from picking the leaf to extracting the raw material within 2 hours at cold temperature, and most of the time manual, unless there is big volumes and we are helped by specific machines. This is fundamental to keep the quality of the raw material. And you can do it only if the cultivation is maximum 30, 50 kilometers away. In our case, it's 2 kilometers away from the lab. And again, this makes a huge difference. But not only, the practices in the farm are fundamental. Our plants have the size, which is very uncommon for aloe vera. It's very common for agave, which is a completely different plant. So huge plants that are doing well. And for sure Salento has an impact, because it's a special, because of this geographical location within the two seas, is a special location for agriculture. But then again, the practice in the soil for the plant makes the difference every single day.
And have you seen that improve? You said one of the reasons to bring it more in-house and now almost fully in-house it was the poor quality. What do you measure in aloe vera? What do you see when it comes into the factory in the lab saying, okay, we're not going to process, this is a good harvest, or oof.
For sure, we need to select those plants that have no damages. This means that the plant cannot have any holes, for instance, otherwise oxygen get in and oxidate the active principle. Also, the harvesting process is fundamental. We don't go to cut with a knife, but we detach gently the leaf from the trunk.
This is a leaf, people, just to understand, this is a leaf like partly the size of your table. This is not a leaf from a tree. These are
no, absolutely. The leaves is basically what contains the pure gel, which is the extract that we harvest, that we use. And so we do it in a very careful way, because as a chemical reaction, the plant seals that bit of open space, but it seals it for 2 hours. That's why we need to run in the lab, clean the leaves and start the extraction. Like this, 100% of the beneficial properties is preserved. We will see later about the numbers, which are very interesting, but related to regenerative agriculture, then at a certain point, we saw that this incredible concentration of active principle gave us specific results in our end cream, which is formulated since over 20 years. We are able to solve important challenges of the skin, even going into the dermatological field, which we cannot claim, but this is the result you get. And we asked about how is possible, why?
Because it's not possible with, let's say, more traditional, I'm doing air quotes, nobody sees that. Traditional aloe vera cream doesn't have that.
Exactly. So we discovered that cultivated and extracted thanks to our methods develops a very powerful prebiotic action. And this prebiotic action strengthens the skin immune system, promote cell renewal, and act on the balance and the vitality of the skin microbiota. This is very interesting. Why? The test showed on the pure raw material, which sometimes we use even instead of water inside the product, a 157% growth of the Staphylococcus aureus epidermis, which is the good bacteria on the skin, and complete inhibition of the Staphylococcus aureus, named the bad bacteria. What I want to say, we call this regenerative beauty. And there is an important link. So a view of regenerative beauty which actually involves the soil. This is an amazing parallel, because the skin microbiota is efficiently restored, revitalized and balanced thanks to prebiotic and postbiotic elements, of which aloe vera is the base. In the same logic, regenerative agriculture is restoring the microbiota of the soil. And at the end, the common goal is the same, bringing skin and soil back to life.
And Have you done tests with aloe vera, I don't know, grown in like substrate or not grown in healthy soil? Have you seen that?
We know, no, also
That would be
because these
interesting.
tests are, every time you make an efficacy test is
Expensive.
quite, it's quite an investment. But the result we got on this plant, and it all comes from the initial concentration of polysaccharides, vitamins, enzymes, and
So
mineral
basically,
salts.
it's what we talk in food on nutrient density and quality is
Yeah.
here. It's effective ingredients and the level of aliveness, basically, and that's the
Yes.
effect on your skin. And when you launch Regenerative Beauty, the folders are here. How has that been received by your customers, which of course is the first line of,
Yeah.
because you make for other brands, you also have your own line in certain places. But how has been, let's say, the end consumer? If like, how are they responding to yet another term? Because we've had natural beauty, we have all the clean label and blah, blah, blah. And I'm asking, of course, because everybody in the food system is hoping that because of regenerative and because of nutrient density and quality, if we start mentioning and communicating that more, there will be a strong reaction from the end consumer. Because if nobody buys this and buys this off the shelf or wherever, we're going to be in trouble. How has been the reaction, let's say, in the cosmetics world, the skincare world, about just the word regenerative, and how has that been landing?
The concept has been very disruptive. And I can tell you, from an industry point of view, we are one of the first few companies talking about skin microbiota. Now there is so many scientific studies actually demonstrated effectively that an imbalanced microbiota lead to all the skin conditions that we know. So that's the root cause of dry skin, greasy skin, mixed skin, and the skin which is easily irritated, sensitive skin. So this disruptive concept focus on microbiota of both soil and skin has led us also to win a very important award, which is the Cosmoprof Award. It's saying the Oscar in the field of cosmetic. And we can tell that from the feedback we received from our customers on this specific new line of products has been so incredible. And in turn, their customer for which that buy their brand has been again even more incredible. Because this is something that you can feel instantly. It's not a treatment that you need to wait 1 month before you get the results. For sure, in 1 month, your skin is completely changed. Yes. So it also works in the long term. But you have a visible result from the first application, which is not only effective, but is also engaging your emotions. So the feedback we received is very good.
Is that this product line, is it so fundamentally different from things you did a couple of years ago?
No. So this is
That's
a very interesting question. We use aloe vera since many different years. So we can actually claim the microbiota friendly action of the raw material in basically all the products we do. But for this specific line, we also involved specific and selected prebiotics and postbiotics, such as inulin, such as fermented active elements, which are more related to a biotechnology, still in the natural world, but biotechnological raw materials, which even empower that action of the aloe vera. So, to give you an example, we tested the finished product. It's our microbiota vitality cream. And the result we got is, remember the 157% increase? It's 214% increase. What I mean, aloe vera, not taken, so not 100% aloe vera. In the cream, there is no water, so it's a waterless formulation. Aloe vera, empowered by these specific elements,
does even better. Yeah.
does even better for the skin.
It's like an activating carrier.
Exactly
The same discussions we have in the gut microbiome, in the food, the fermented stuff. It's such a similar. What's interesting is that people are willing to pay for this and that there are margins to do it, because aloe vera growing is not a cheap mechanized, like you're saying, we slowly by hand remove the leaves and we have to run to the factory, we have to extract it. Like but it's an interesting analog of where we are or we are not in the food space or in the supplement space. And it's interesting to see that people are showing up for that. Like they are repeating, and somehow you're able to communicate in all the noise of certifications, logos, in everything that people put on packaging that are miracles or things, etc., that you're able to cut through that with a word regenerative that nobody used in cosmetics until a couple of years ago.
This is actually has been copyrighted. So the concept of regenerative beauty is
But it
a
cuts through the
trademark
noise,
now
and
nowadays.
it cuts through the noise and it gets reception, which is very interesting.
And another very interesting point is at the end, this is giving us, so the fact that we grow in this way, it's also empowered by the fact that there is a company which transform the raw material, and there is companies that support that quality. So if it was not for the effect at the end, it's outcome driven. In this case, yes, this is the philosophy. So we do it in this way. But you cannot have a philosophy without having the outcomes. So if these products will not give these amazing results, will not have been successful. So quality is driving everything, and is also enabling to make things in a very sustainable way.
And what are then ways, we mentioned vibrations, but what are next steps with aloe vera and in general with ingredients? Like where do you see, how do we go to 300%? Like how do you see potential for improvement or even more active? Of course, also in processing, every time you can keep it more alive, great. But on the farm level,
I can tell you the future. From internally, I would love to test the effect of music in our greenhouse, to make a concert.
Which are vibrations.
Some classical music is an active project I have in mind. And
we know this from wine. There's some wineries that play
different studies as well on this, and I'm sure it can have an effect. And I can tell you the future of aloe for this territory. We could increase our production, but we are not going to do this because we want to share the benefit coming from the business with the local territory. So we are now actively looking for new young people to which we can transfer all our knowledge in terms of farming this plant in an organic and regenerative way. And these young people can actually be the leaders of new farm and new startups focused on aloe vera from Salento. And we will offer a specific agreement where we will buy all their outputs, by following specific guidelines for sure, at a fair price, which is of course very remunerative also for them. So creating a concept of the district of aloe vera, production district of aloe vera, such as there is the oranges from Sicily, such as there is the lemon from Campania, such as the bergamot from Calabria. And this can be also new sorts of opportunities for this territory.
Which would be basically an outgrower scheme. You have figured out how to grow aloe vera here, you've figured out how to grow the quality, you figured out how to process, vertically integrate and sell. And instead of doubling to 20,000 plants or whatever, you're saying, now let's work within distance, obviously.
Let's share.
And also, basically, like a lot of coffee is done, outgrower schemes. There's a central processing facility. They grow some of it, and then there's agreements.
Again, of course, these companies are also free to sell the products elsewhere. We don't care. So it's not a matter of personal interest from a company point of view, but actually giving the territory a new opportunity.
Because it's a good, and you don't probably, I'm guessing here, you don't have to do a lot of hectares or acres to make an interesting. It's an intensive.
The most important investment is on the greenhouse. Yeah. But again, there is special funds for young people as well. There is opportunity to go on something which is already existent, and then turn the greenhouse into the most innovative at the shop at the later stage.
And who knows what they find out? Maybe they start growing with music.
For sure, there is the need of passionate people that are willing to do things the proper ways. And this actually, within this scenario, we already start a project, but this in this case is an important social project. We collaborated with a local association that take care of people that have done some mistakes in their life, young people. And we donated them 1,000 plants, and these people are taking care of these plants. Some of them actually came here to make a working stage in our company. And they're taking care of the plants, loving it. And we are talking about people that do not see any future for them. And so even making an important personal impact on this youngster. And at a certain point, they will become our supplier. And they can use the fruit coming from what they do for themselves.
Because do you need more plants? Is there a growing?
Yes.
You need more aloe vera. That's one of the reasons as
It's
well.
growing a lot.
You
It's
don't want to
growing a
grow.
lot.
You don't want to grow necessarily a bigger greenhouse yourself, but you do need more.
Yeah, we are able to cope now with the current request, but we realize that every year is growing and growing. So yes, absolutely. The plan is to expand, and we need to expand in this way.
And for an entrepreneurial farmer, it's the same discussion we have on agrivoltaics, we have on in some other element, in some other way in Portugal on super intensive tree crops. There's a lot of discussion, of course, if you should do that, should you put a greenhouse, etc. But you can do a small percentage of your land, very managed, a very interesting income stream, and with that you can do the rest of your land.
Absolutely.
Whatever experiments you want to do in agroforestry.
No, you don't need to have it's not a must to have 10,000 plants. You can have 1,000. You can have 500. Be sure that if they are farmed the right way. Now we are also experimenting in our greenhouse in order to make it even more stable over time. So we are experimenting with some cover crops. So it's very challenging because you have bibliography for everything but aloe vera into these specific new techniques of involving and taking care of soil fertility. So we realize that we are one of the few first that look into very innovative way of farming with aloe vera. So cover crops, understanding.
But imagine
the
if you get
impact
20 other young innovative farmers experimenting as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's basically distributed research for you as well.
Absolutely.
And other ingredients, like you mentioned, of course, other Mediterranean plants. What are other ones that you're excited about that could play a role in the territory as well and could play a role on land that are very fundamental for your product line?
So olive oil and officinal plants are fantastic elements. Rosemary, lavender. Olive oil is basically present in every single formulation. Aloe and olives and olive oil are a fantastic combination. Inulin is a fantastic extract we started to implement, and this is coming from the roots of the wild chicory, which grows here, and we don't even realize it. This is used by all grandmothers to make vegetables, but it has a very high concentration of inulin in the roots. And this can be extracted, and this is a fantastic prebiotic element. So working on the defense on the barrier on the skin, which is fundamental in order to face all those environmental stress for which your skin is, let's say, impacted even more nowadays.
Interesting. And that you're growing that yourself, or it's a wild one you go
In
around?
this case, we are working with a specific elements which is already stabilized. But this is something that we are willing to start looking at.
And also there, again, it's something that you have to extract the roots, but normally the roots are not used anyway. So it doesn't impact. You can still use it for the food part. You can still
I think
use.
the leaf is the leaf. Yes, absolutely.
Which, and in terms of olive oil, it's the pure olive oil.
Olive oil, yes, olive oil as it is. Another huge ingredient which has been also, I said, an incredible growth in the cosmetic field is prickly pear,
which grows everywhere.
It's gone everywhere. Here in Sicily, there is a lot of cultivations, but also here in Salento, we see it as a wild plant basically. It's like aloe vera in the Canary Islands. Prickly pear in Salento grows naturally, and the extract is a fantastic antioxidant and protective element, very useful in our formulation. Pomegranate extract is another, pomegranate oil is another element. So we are talking about elements which grows here. There is a great opportunity to increase our supply chain with new elements, with even increasing the current supply we have in order to be able to formulate even better.
Yeah, and I remember prickly pear specifically, or this kind of cactus family direction. A lot of people plant them because of water reasons. They store water really well. They're like planting irrigation. You can chop them up.
Yeah, we use the leaf actually and put it in the soil. This is a reserve of water.
It's like planting irrigation.
Same as aloe vera. Aloe vera inside is what is the most special water you can get, but it's water. It's a water-based element.
Which is just fascinating. And I know you're a privately held company, but if we love to ask questions, obviously, of the role of money and investing in this space, you've had a lot of investors circling and you've always said no. But if you would have a message to, let's say we go to Milan, we go to La Scala, to the famous theater, we do an event, an evening with a lot of interesting food, a lot of interesting skincare, a lot of interesting, let's say, experience on stage where we discuss this world of that most people don't really think about regenerative beauty. It's in their bathroom. It's not really a thing we talk about so much as we talk about food, and we should.
Yeah.
But people forget. Like the next day, they're in their office, they open their laptop. What do you want them to remember from an evening like that? What is the one seed you want to plant in the mind of people that are, let's say, normally in the world of finance, investing, either their own money or other people's money? If they had to remember one thing from an evening where they learned a lot, but one thing only, what do you want to plant in the mind of people managing money about what we've discussed today about regenerative beauty?
For sure that there is a huge potential and a huge opportunity to do good to the people through the skin. So the concept of this similarity within skin and soil. If we treat the soil the conventional way, we know the result is a desert. If we treat the skin the conventional way, we know the result is a desert. And this is the base of the innovative image we came out in 2024. Before I would like to emphasize this, because if people see this image that nowadays, they think it's made by ChatGPT. It's not. So we cut the face of a lady in two. On one side, we put the background of a desert. On the other side, we put the background of a jungle. It's a very strong image, but tells you everything about the concept of regenerative beauty. So if there is something I would like, if there is a seed I would like to give them put them in the head, is that of a great opportunity which is there to be capitalized. And well, as a suggestion in terms of regenerative agriculture, I would say that they should look for ability or even concrete plans to cope with economic challenges. As we said, we control the entire supply chain. So the farm has a company within the group which does not undervalue its products, but exactly the opposite. So it is important to look for plans in order to make sure that those precious elements are valued the right way. And especially because from a farm transitioning to conventional, from conventional to regenerative organic, there is a lot of funds needed at the start. Change of machineries, even people work that it is anyway intensive, apart from the change of mindset, but it can even be brought. But the results do not come in a snap. So it takes time. So from an investment perspective, this should be a gradual conversion, cannot be overnight. Poor soil cannot become soil full of organic matter in 2 months. And, this is what we get from our experience. Maybe somewhere else where cycles are faster, this can happen, but in the Mediterranean time is low.
It's slower.
And,
water is always a challenge.
Yes.
Stuff grows fast, but then stops growing in the summer. So
it's challenging, and that's why I said we need to cope with those challenges. We had the opportunity to have a company which invests no matter what, because it's a solid foundation. But from an investment point of view, a regenerative farm is not a startup. So you cannot expect super fast growth and rapid outcomes. It's more like a long-term asset, I would say.
And if we flip the tables in that sense, and you be in charge for whatever reason, I'm not saying anybody should have that kind of concentration of wealth, but let's say that happens and you are in charge of €1 billion. We like to ask, of course, this is not investment advice, but what would be your priorities? Could be very long-term investments, but if you had almost unlimited resources, what would you do? What would you focus on if you had to put it to work? Like it cannot stay in the bank. It has to be to be invested over time. What would Pierluigi focus on?
Here in our land, we are facing since over 10 years environmental disaster with the bacteria Xylella, which took over basically all our olive trees. And I give a reply, an answer based on where we are nowadays. We have millions of trees that unfortunately have been impacted a lot. Many of them have died. If I was in charge of a 1 billion investment portfolio, I will dedicate it to a specific project, which I will name Regenerative Salento, in order to restore the beauty, health, and the resilience of this territory. This project will be actually focused on fix the problem, because this land has a huge potential. So the goal will be to move from a fragile, extractive model of agriculture. This is also the reason why we had this trouble, vulnerable to disease and climate stress, to a living, diversified, and productive ecosystem, which is able to give both financial, social, and environmental returns. In this case, the top priority will be biodiversity, so diversification. In Apulia, we have, I don't know, many millions olive trees. And it seems like there is only one cultivation. But this monoculture, it's a huge problem.
It's a huge risk.
And it's a huge risk. We've seen this risk has not been taken into account. We are talking about many times, especially in the center of Puglia, plants which have hundreds of years. So it's not even an easy choice to change. But the risk and also led to not only organic, not organic practices, has led to this disaster, very low immune defense system. In our case, in our land, the olive trees are still running. They are fighting the bacteria, but we treat them since 25 years only with the organic farming techniques, and since over 5 years with regenerative organic techniques. And they reply in an incredible way. They are still green, they give new leaves, they continue to produce olives, and they were never abandoned. So this human approach towards the plant is fundamental. We, as you said before about vibration, we believe that the way you approach a plant is making the difference. Our people even ask permission to the plant before taking a leaf.
Before pruning.
Before this may many think this could be excessive, but we are really convinced that plants are not things. They are living organisms. They move, they perceive, they feel, and they give you in return what you give to them. So it's an exchange. It's an interaction between people and not an extraction. And we see the results are visible.
And I don't think it's, some people listening will go, but we've talked about it actually quite a few times on the show, on a beautiful book called The Light Eaters of Zoe something that I will put in the show notes. And plants, we all know, are definitely alive, but there's a lot of discussion about consciousness. I'm not going to use the word here, but plants are, let's say, to put it mildly, are able to do and preserve a lot more, or perceive a lot more things than we give them credit for.
They're very intelligent
and there's some
creatures.
Very advanced farmers that are taking that very seriously, either through water, which is a very interesting carrier, through activating it, through really communicating differently on the vibrations. We might do a series on it, but I think the whole quantum agriculture, as it's been coined, is fascinating. It feels the next
It deserves a series.
It deserves a series, and any tips are welcome if you want to definitely get in touch, because we see that we don't find it surprising that people in the wine industry do that. Also plant their trees. And it's interesting that it's in the wine more, it's in, let's say, cosmetics and skincare. You're more advanced in that.
Yeah.
And somehow we feel it's weird in the food space and agriculture, like food production. But I also see people starting to ask very serious questions about frequencies and vibrations.
We were left impacted so much about this book, which is The Secret Life of Plants. It gives some real examples which you cannot avoid. You cannot neglect. It's like this, and it's incredible, and you cannot explain that with science. So witnessing with a plant which is used as a witness, or a plant which is able to connect with who take care of it a long distance. So this type of, I'm not a fan of what doesn't exist, but at the same time, I'm very concrete to say that for sure there is some energy which we as humans are not able to perceive, and that there is the foundation on which plants also take and function.
And I would question, actually, I think a number of people are very able, or still able. If you look at indigenous knowledge, obviously there are, like, everything is alive, including stones.
Yeah.
And they were and are still very able to communicate. And we see some people, and we know some examples of people that seem to be able to talk with trees, and like they are communicate with. And it's not so far-fetched. Of course, if you go to the average, let's say, agriculture university, you're going to get some interesting faces when you say this. But you're seeing that in practice, it makes a fundamental difference. And so we're going to see a lot of, I think, science catching up to this and starting to prove a lot of things that we knew. And we it's not so long ago that we discovered mycelium roots and how trees communicate with each other, both underground and overground. Absolutely. If you said that 15 years ago, you would be, and now it's very established, peer-reviewed paper.
Galileo.
Yeah.
It's the same.
And we're at that edge. And the interesting part is that you with a skincare company and cosmetic company have the ability to do that research. Because you need quality, you have smaller batches than if you would do, I don't know, aloe vera for food. I don't know how that would look like, but fully mechanized, you have the factory within 2 kilometers. Like you have that feedback loop that many would wish for. If you grow tomatoes, you don't have that. You also look for quality, but it's slightly different. And so you have that ability and the curiosity, of course, but to keep pushing, okay, how do I play music? What kind of music? What does it do? What do we do with water? How do we do cover crops in a greenhouse with aloe vera that nobody has ever done? But if we see the result and the feedback will come back like, whoa, this harvest was fundamentally different, or it suffered less from whatever cold spell, then it makes sense. And
for sure, we feel like we are not there yet. And we will never get there. What I mean is, in constant search for improvement. And this is a spirit we have actually within also our company. Continuous, not only in the farm, but also in the research in terms of skincare. Continuous willingness and to look for improvement, to do something better, to understand how this can have an impact on that. I think this, I will call it like a kid mentality. That approach to something for the first time, it's fundamental at the same time.
It's like it's what is it, childhood mentality? No, it's the curiosity brain and mindset of keep pushing, which most entrepreneurs, very forward-thinking farmers, inventors all share. Like it's never done. When I talk to farmers we talked to many years ago and you come back and they're like, how much do you know now? We know a lot more, but we also know that we don't know a lot more. Like the universe is so much bigger than it was 5 years ago. Because now we talk about frequencies and oh my God, that opens up a whole. And a question we love to ask, if you could change one thing, which could be in the skincare space, natural cosmetics, could be in, but it could also be global consciousness. Like we've heard any answer. Yesterday somebody said, I would love people to read more. Anything, doesn't matter, as long as it's books. Or as long as it's physical, but could also be, I don't know, forcing all cosmetics companies to be super transparent on their labels. Like it could be extremely practical, extremely non-practical, whatever you feel like. But if there's only one thing you could change, what would that be?
I would focus this answer on the agriculture industry, but at the same time it's the same for cosmetics. If I could change one thing, so I wish I will change how success is measured and defined, rewarded across the entire value chain, especially critical in large-scale retail. Today's success is defined by short-term outcomes, low prices, constant supply. And the purchasing habits are still reinforcing this model, pushing farmers to maximize output at the lowest cost. This gives little room for investment in soil health, nutritional values, people, long-term resilience of the system. So this brings to a very important contradiction where sustainability is discussed at high level, but then from a reality point of view, commercial pressure still drives everyday decisions. And this makes a system where farmers carry most of the risk and capture, and the capture of value is at the end of the value chain. And this brings also to a false choice between productivity and sustainability, while we understand that the best agricultural system do not trade productivity for sustainability. That's why the wish is related to integrated results. A system that improves soil and ecosystem, at the same time support farmers and the local community, and at the same time maximize yields and plant performance. We've seen that this is possible, and it should not be an additional optional added on top. And if the success was measured this way, then the entire industry will follow. This means that financial incentives would shift, contracts would be linked to sustainability at the same time. So it's an important, of course it's very difficult, but the magic wand will enable this. And as a result, we would have products which would clearly communicate, you said before, clearly communicate the environmental and social impact coming from the production process. So this will be a related wish, being able to have a more transparent and more real communication on the labels. For sure, marketing is important, but at the same time bringing the reality. How much water you used, what's the soil fertility, what is the product, do you use chemicals? So not only nothing and organic, because otherwise it's not a fair fight
And
I
do
would
you see
say.
that on labels, like on skincare and cosmetics? How different is the label? Are the label rules and what you have to put and what you can put, etc., compared to food? Because I don't think it's the same protocol, the same.
No, it's a complete different, especially in Europe, it's a complete different regulation. The rules are applied for, doesn't matter if conventional or organic products, organic skincare, for instance. What you will see as a difference is the ingredient list will be completely different. If there is chemical products, then you will read these very huge names with very strange chemicals. If you read our ingredient list, you will find a lot of Latin names of trees and extracts from the plants. The rules actually in Europe, we are very much advanced with this. And there is an interesting point here. For cosmetics, you need to list all the allergens that comes from the ingredients you use. Let's say you use extract of essential oil of orange or essential oil of lemon, of course you will have limonene and linalool as a result. Yes. Then there is some products, some food products that of course have a huge concentration of oranges but are not necessarily legally required to state the allergen they contain. So there is a difference in treatment and attention. There is so many people with allergy, but the allergy is not given by cosmetic. The allergy is given also by the food you eat. And there is some regulation that should be aligned. And this is also causing some negative impact in our sector.
It's almost stricter on the cosmetic side
Exactly,
than it is
rather than on the food, which immediately gets in contact with your internal body.
Yeah, which is, it's good that it's there for the cosmetic side. It would be good if it's there for the food side as well.
Exactly.
And as a final question, like within, let's say it's a question inspired by John Kempf. Within the sustainability cosmetic space, you have a number of other B Corps. You have, of course, a number of organic brands. There are not so many, but there's a good group, let's say, out there. When you meet with that group of those around the world that take, let's say, skincare very seriously and non-chemically, where do you think different? Where are you thinking contrarian? What do you believe to be true when it comes to regenerative beauty, regenerative skincare, when you're among your peers? When you're among the industry people, I can imagine where you think differently. But among your peers, where do you stand out?
I think one important point is what we talked about, the human approach towards the plant. I think that's a really unique approach to agriculture, which put at the center also not only the plant, but also the attitude and every single action made by the person who take care of that plant. We are totally convinced about it.
It almost gets into the biodynamic space.
It gets into the psychology of plants. I tell you an example, which is very interesting. In the middle of our land, there is a beautiful bioresort. And in the middle of our land, we had this millenary olive tree. Beautiful, huge, this trunk, like you can stay there to look at it for hours. And this tree has been attacked by Xylella bacteria. And given the fact it had 1,000 years, did not have the right energy to fight against. So it gradually started to die. What we did is we grafted this tree with a species of olive which is more resistant exactly towards the bacteria. But we realized at a certain point that the tree was very dormant, so it was sleepy, was not really active. So we thought about putting a tree inside the tree. So we used the trunk of the tree as a base, putting a lot of soil inside and planting a tree of olive tree, an olive tree within that tree. So this actually activated a mechanism of jealousy where we realized that within a couple of months, this tree started to bring new branches from below, not again from above because it was too late, but from below. And from these branches, we could pick olive, which were the size of mandarin, very big olives, which is not common at all. This is a way to say, when you have a clear mind and look out for this psychology of plants, it's like baby aloe vera. So we take baby aloe vera, and initially all of them were having a lot of months of troubles because they suffered the detachment from the mother. While we understood that, we had to keep them out of the soil for some time in order to make suffer a bit. And then when put back in the soil, they will immediately go to look for food. Again, this kind of approach to the plant, which is unconventional but very human. And I would think that's one belief which differs from the rest. And
how is that with your agriculture crew, with your farmers you work with? You've been with the company for sure for a long time. Like, how has been that relationship, talking about frequencies and the psychology of plants? Is that
they are very line, and I have to say they are also young people. At the beginning, we were working with a farmer who had an incredible experience, but very much focused on conventional. So we had to really be able, have the passions to
unlearn,
explain and convince about the things are not usually or are not best done in the traditional way. Up till today, we realize that there is a huge trouble because many of the farmers do not know that tillage or deep tillage actually bring a lot of trouble. So imagine what is the state of art that needs to be. There's a lot of work to do on education. And so with this kind of old people that have their convincing, it's difficult. But with all the people actually are totally in line with our principles and our philosophy. And this gives also important support because, again, also with us, which are the property, it's a continuous exchange. It's not only us giving the philosophy, but it comes also from the people which are at the end, which are living the soil, which are living the plants every day. And this is very interesting because many times it's them that tell us, but look at this, could be done this way because we noticed, and this is at the end, it's incredible.
And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up and to thank you for the work you do, and thank you for having us here. And of course, for, I think, first time, and we touch upon skincare, cosmetics sometimes as that's interesting because there's their brands and margins and they look at quality, but we never really had a deep dive into it. So thank you so much, Pierluigi, for having us here and taking us on an introduction. This is definitely not a proper deep dive because there's a whole world to discover, but of active ingredients, music, aloe vera, soil, brands, and building, by all means, a very successful company on health, and of course, regenerative beauty and the microbiota skincare revolution. So thank you so much.
It's me that thanks you for the great work you're doing, for all the education, and I've been listening to this post and also the podcast to learn and unlearn many of the things since many years. So I'm very grateful for the invitation, and it's been a pleasure to tell you about what we do every day and what is our passion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for listening all the way to the end. And what do you think? Please get in touch and share if this is something we should pay more attention to. Our largest organ, a sector that is in general very profitable, very toxic, but let's say the clean label, the clean skincare, the natural beauty space is growing very fast, has really good margins, and could potentially pay significant to farmers and to their supply chain. So are we foolish, or maybe with the podcast I'm just speaking for myself, to not pay so much attention to the cosmetics and skincare side of things? And did you learn something? Was this challenging? Was this pushing you when we talked about music and aloe vera, or asking permission to take the leave? I'm very curious how this resonated with you. Hope you learned something. As always, get in touch with feedback, get in touch with social media, LinkedIn, etc., or the contact form of the website. It might take a while, but we read everything and we almost always come back. Thank you so much again for listening, and looking forward to hearing you at the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. For show notes and links discussed, check out our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com/posts. If you like this episode, why not share it with a friend? And get in touch with us on social media, our website, or via the Spotify app, and tell us what you liked most. And give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your podcast player. That really, really helps us. Thanks again, and see you next time.